If you want to be a writer, you must read. But there are so many books out there. What should you read? Well, anything. But today I want to share with you 5 books that I think every writer or creative person should prioritize. These are nonfiction books that are mostly general to the craft of writing and the creative process. So they're not necessarily books that are great stories. Although some of them do contain stories that I think any writer can relate to, such as writer's block or the frustration of editing your first draft. I recommend these books because writing is such a lonely and laborious task, and these books do a really good job in sympathizing with that. What they also do is they don't let us get consumed by our excuses to not write. These books are written by people who have accomplished this task many times before, so in there are a lot of good wisdom for those writers who are currently struggling. Okay, so if that's interesting, let's continue through the books. Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite nonfiction writers, and Perennial Seller is probably my favorite book from him because it concisely breaks down the missteps that us writers often make when we set out on our journey to create work that lasts. When we walk through a library, we see hundreds and thousands of books. Books that we've never heard about before, books that we'll never pick up to read. How can we avoid our hard work ending up like one of those books? How can we create something that will stand the test of time? In Perennial Seller, Ryan Holiday warns us of the lure of a meteoric rise and an equally quick fade into obscurity, and explains to us that the work of a writer is more than just creating quality work. It's about communicating it with a group of people who will share it, nurture it, and develop a deeper relationship with it. Therefore, he explains that writing goes beyond writing. It requires research before you start and marketing after you finish. It's not just one marathon. It's a marathon after a marathon after a marathon. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. Perhaps my favorite book on the process of writing, the iconic memoir by Anne Lamott, is the one I pick up whenever I need a boost of inspiration, when I feel like my story isn't going anywhere, when I feel disappointed, tired, hopeless. Anne Lamott reminds us about the importance of taming our inner critic, the traps of wanting to simply be published, and the power of putting one word after the next. Bird by Bird. Not only that, Bird by Bird is such a witty, funny, comforting read that every time I dip into it, I feel like I'm being reacquainted with an old friend, one that would ask, "Hey, how's the work going?" And I'll answer, "It's going." If nothing more, Bird by Bird is a great reminder of why writers got into this lonely pursuit in the first place. And I love it for that. The Dip by Seth Godin. The Dip is the sobering book that us creatives need whenever we reach a part of a process where we're struggling, where we're complacent, where we are no longer excited about what we're working on. Seth Godin forces us to stop dreaming and confront the obstacle in our way, the dip, and offers us the option. If we're gonna quit, quit now. Because if we're gonna quit a month from now, that's gonna be a month wasted. Quitting or continuing is not only about the overall pursuit of being a writer, it's also about individual projects. When should I stop working on this so I can start working on that? When do I eat my sunk costs and treat it as a learning experience instead of having it be the self-inflicted life sentence? The thesis of The Dip is that winners quit all the time, so don't feel bad. The thing is, if you're gonna quit, quit earlier than later. This book is a splash of reality that us creative writers need, and it helps us reframe what we're working on and decide whether it's worth pushing forward until the end. On Writing by Stephen King. There's nothing like hearing someone at the top of their game share stories and advice about something they're really passionate in. And Stephen King is really passionate about writing. Just think of all the books he's written. While On Writing does offer a lot of tactical tips, such as King's English Toolbox and how to edit your first draft, what I love most about On Writing is how King goes into his own work and the lifestyle that us writers all dream about, and understanding that real life still interferes after you achieve that goal. Achieving your dreams still means you have to live in reality unfortunately. There's probably no writer more successful than Stephen King, but this memoir feels so down to earth. There's this belief that whatever King writes, publishers will publish, but this book proves that he knows what he's talking about, and he's so much more than a bankable brand. King explains that writing can be the craft that brings us fortune and fame, but it might just be the thing that we live for, especially after his car accident. Writing can push us to get better, to understand more, but even without all the success, it's this beautiful thing that we're lucky enough to do, and that's very inspiring. What I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami. One area I think a lot of people make mistakes in when they're pursuing something big, like writing a novel, is that they feel they need to shut themselves off from the world, stop doing everything else, and write. But what Haruki Murakami talks about when he talks about writing is that being a writer is so much more than just writing. And in order to actually acquire the stories worth sharing, one must actually live a life outside of the words on the paper. Writing is one of those activities that we bring so much of ourselves into it. Therefore, anything that we do in our lives can be used as materials in our stories, like new ingredients for a meal. Writing becomes this intersection for everything that we do. It doesn't just have to be running. It could be cooking, it could be photography, it could be kite flying. Writing allows us to bring all of that into one place. Find the passions in your life for the moments when you're not actually writing. You'll discover that it's a healthier balance. You'll also find that one activity can actually support the other, allowing you to improve on both gradually. Those are 5 books that I've really enjoyed and have helped me when I felt stuck. Are there other books that you feel writers or other creative types should read? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for recommendations, and if you're interested in more videos about writing and the creative process, please subscribe.